Hey guys, Laxfischy here, haven't been on in a while. Wanted to talk about one of the stringing sticks I've done, or one of the string jobs I did for one of my kids. I coach lacrosse at South County, if you can't tell. But, he uses a superpower. Yep, I just strung it up a little bit ago. I did, as you can see, a triangle top with a black base, if you can see on the back. A dark green base, blackish, and then the lime green on the top, which makes it kind of look like from a distance it's only just weaved in and out, which I think is kind of cool. That's just me. Whatever. Maybe he'll like it, maybe he won't. But some of the interesting things about this, about the superpowers. Superpowers, I'm not a fan of them. Never really have been. I feel like when it comes to the superpower, it's either kind of all or nothing, fans-wise, because I've never heard anybody that's like, about the superpower. I've heard a lot of people that are like, I love the superpower, but then I've heard people that are like, I hate the superpower. I think it's just personal preference. It's got the offset head, pretty much. This is a high school one, so it's a lot more pinched, if you can see. When I put the ball in there, it's like super pinched. Which I get, it's nice for attackmen. It's a good head for attackmen. But we'll talk about the pocket here. I strung it with a, if we can see here, let's get in here. Interlock, single, or so, interlock, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, down to the bottom. And I skipped a couple holes. So if you can see there, I skipped that hole, and then I skipped one down, this one down here. And I think there's one more up there that I skipped. Nope. So it would be not 1, 2, 1, or not 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. And it gives me a nice mid to high pocket. So we get in. It sits right there. It's legal. Fair amount of hold. Just what he likes. And it can be adjusted to be a little whippy. Can adjust it to be a little not whippy. But this is what he was looking for. I'm not a fan of stringing these things, guys. It took me a while to figure out this. Figure out a good pattern for this. I went a couple different tries, and I have to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sidewalls just to get to that pocket, which was, I'm not really, I like using 8 or 9 and getting a good high pocket and then letting the bottom bag out, but that's aesthetics. That's just a me thing. 10 is fine, 10 creates a good pocket, but this was 10 and like still trying to get a pocket on it. So not really a fan of that. You can see there. He's using Duramesh. I'm a huge fan of Duramesh though. Wax meshes, whoa, there we go, had to adjust it. But wax meshes I'm a big fan of. But Duramesh is probably the best stuff, I think. That's a personal thing. Some people, other words, but Duramesh is probably the best stuff out there, I think. Well, Duramesh, wax mesh, you're good with both. Let's talk about the actual shooters here. I have 2 U's. Basically, so it's the first one. First one is where the ball kind of sits and it holds it there. And then when he goes to wind up, it's still hanging on that first shooter. And then the other one's there to help it out. And then one straight and then a nylon. You can't ever really go wrong with a nylon. I like nylons just because you get that real snap feel at the end as opposed to using a shooter for the top one, and it's a real It's not an F, but you can get the same amount of whip and whatnot. It's just a different feeling. I like the nylons just because it's real snappy when it comes off. So you'll get off and you just feel that snap. And it's good stuff. It's fun stuff. But that's another thing that's just preference. Let's see, what else is special about this head? Nothing really special, but I skipped at the top. You see how I did it? I skipped a couple of those holes there. And what that is for to help it get a better channel. When I did my knots, it pulls it down tighter at the top, so you can see how up top it's real tight and flat, and then you can actually see how it channels out. Because for the longest time I made sticks just without interlocks, and they wouldn't have natural channels, so I'd have to make them through my shooters, which was not fun. Not a fan of that. But once I learned, thanks to East Coast Eyes in Western Colorado, look both them up, they're really good stringers. Once I learned about interlocks from them, it made a whole nother world world of a difference when I was stringing. So things would, I'd have natural channels, so I wouldn't have to use the shooters to make more channels. And as you can see here, it's got a fairly nice channel coming off of it. You can see how it funnels. If you can, let me see if I can line that up. But you see how it just naturally funnels it up, and I don't have to tighten my shooters at all to get that. And then, so, yeah, that's a big, nice bonus that I learned. Nothing really else besides the fact that I hate stringing superpowers. Not a fan of them. Big fan of string clutches. All Maverick heads, nice and fun to string, but not superpowers. Not a fan of them. Proton powers, good string jobs. Get those off real well. Yeah. Oh, also, bottom. Wanted to talk about this a little bit. If you can see how I do my bottom, I come up and basically come from under it as opposed to the top. You can see that. That is one thing I learned from a video with Matt Danowski. This is a neat little trick. So that when you go to cradle, one-handed cradle, the ball can actually drop below because the shooters are falling under it as opposed to being on top of it. Or the bottom string is under it as opposed to on top of it. So if you can see there, it drops below. Okay? When you're one-handed cradling. Which is a nice, so if I cradle a little bit, you see how it sits there at the bottom. And this is kind of a transition pocket, Matt Danowski likes to call it. So what happens is, if you see here, you can loosen up the bottoms a little bit. Not loosen them up, but you don't do interlocks with them. If you see that right there. And what that does is it allows the mesh to slide down like that. It allows the mesh to slide up and down the shooters. So, or the sidewalls. So when you go to one-handed cradle, as you can see from here, I'll cradle in tight, the ball sits to the bottom when I one-handed cradle. And then I take it out and I still have a nice pocket at the bottom of the stick. But when you go to wind up, so if I go to wind up, get a little pocket in there, it sits on the top. Neat little trick. Something to look at. Something to learn about. But yeah, I'm going to try and have some more sticks that I string up different ways. Talk about them differently for you guys, but cool stuff. Comment, subscribe. Subscribing will be nice. Rate.